Hello and welcome back to Astrological Intentions. I am your host, Alex Reevy, along with the Balinese babe herself, Sandy Reevy.
Salamat pagi.
Salamat pagi means good morning here in Bali. It is episode 38, and here in Bali, it is April 17th. Back home in Chicago, it is April 16th. So
we're a day ahead. We'll let you know how it's going.
We are coming to you from the future. So I wanted to give you the 1-2 punches. We have Mercury ingress into Aries.
Fresh ideas.
Full moon in Libra.
Second full moon of Libra.
Sun ingress into Taurus.
A slower pace.
Venus ingress into Aries.
Time to make moves.
Sun conjunct Uranus.
Everything but calm.
Then we have an Our House story coming to you from the very holy springs of Bali called Tirta Empul. So stay tuned for this episode of Astrological Intentions.
You got the keys. You got the keys. You got the keys. You got the keys.
Hello and welcome to Bali. It is morning here on the 17th, back home, and it is the 16th. So we want to wish you all a very salamat pagi, which means good morning.
Salamat pagi.
Yes.
Alex.
So I know that Sandy has been speaking to you all last week on the podcast because I was going around with my boyfriend on a scooter, pretty much exploring and having some amazing adventures.
In the rain,
in the dark,
getting lost,
climbing a mountain in the middle of the night to watch the sunrise over the clouds. It was absolutely incredible. And I'm sure I'll have some more stories for you all there. But let's go ahead and start in the transits. So let's talk about Mercury ingress into Aries.
Really, Mercury on Wednesday the 17th, so this is tomorrow in Chicago, around 1:01 a.m. So we're right at the precipice of this. That the planet of communication, Mercury, is moving into a new sign, into Aries. And actually, this is going to be a big track change because this Mercury has been lollygagging, really, and that's one of my mom's words. In Pisces from, before Valentine's Day. So for 7 weeks, Mercury went into Pisces, went retrograde there, slow moved, stationing, direct and retrograde. And it's just now coming out.
Right.
And, in Pisces, it gets where it's cloudy, it's confusing, not having a real clear direction, yet being in the visioning of things, the dreaminess, the touching in on some sensitive, emotional parts.
Right, and that's how
see visions.
Yeah, that's how we were talking about that. During that time is just like really explore those spiritual, mystical places of yourself. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But now it's moving into Aries, which says, things are making tracks. They're gaining speed. Your ideas, anything in communication, your words, your voice, to open this up and now kind of getting fired up. Where your thoughts and ideas and anything that has been kind of lazy in the last, say, 2 months has now have more of a direction. It takes on new action. So, don't be afraid to speak about those new ideas or things that have come up in the last 2 months. This is where they can have fire, they can have action.
And that's really interesting too, because for me, one of my biggest intentions right now is to use my communication in a very, direct, focused, and and clear way.
Well, at the opening ceremony yesterday here at our retreat, that was your intention.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And so, what I kind of equate that to is the forging of a steel knife, really getting and like pounding it down and, using forceful words at some points, but also, having that direction and having the clean cut of saying, this is what I want. I'm not going to, walk around this point too much because I need it to be clear and direct, because that is an incredible way of communication.
Well, and to give Pisces, our sun signs.
Right.
And, my Mercury is in Pisces. So the fact that Mercury has been in Pisces for the last 2 months has allowed us to kind of like, go through this whirlpool, and seeing and touching in on a bunch of different thoughts and feelings and ideas and words, and knowing like, oh my gosh, I'm not getting what I want because I don't know how to directly say it.
Right.
I always say, and like I said, I have it innately, that, I beat around the bush and I'll keep telling a story around, and time might not allow me to get to the point of the story.
Right.
And anybody that knows me or I speak to regularly, knows this about me, but they're getting a lot of information that may or may not be important to them, but it's kind of important to me.
Right.
So now it's time to have that direction. Let's get the arrow going. We got to move forward.
Right.
Yeah.
So join me in that intention of just really speaking and using your words in a very forging, focused way and an intentional way.
Well, and Aries is the sign of soldiering. So there's a challenge that needs to be taken here. When you join me, it's like I challenge you to move with you on having a directness of communication.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
At least in conversation, because here we go to the next couple days, Friday the 19th, we go into the full moon at the last degree of Libra.
Interesting, yeah.
29 degrees Libra. Now, this is the second full moon in Libra. We got it at 0, 1 month ago.
Right.
And so here at 6:12 a.m. in Chicago, true balance. We've got the sun at the very last degree, 29 degrees of Aries, and the moon has now made its way around for opposite, for full embodiment of light. That, check in with all of your one-on-one relations.
Right.
Business partners, best friends, intimate, husband, boyfriend.
Because really what we're doing is we're shining that full moon light in those places. And with it being, at 29 degrees of Libra, this is a very mature way of looking at relationships.
Yeah, so what started, 29 days ago, that whole month that you started at 0, the kind of that like early stage, now you're at the more mature stage. See how the relationship is going in this last month.
Absolutely.
We hear everybody coming into work now. It's like, what time? Like 8-ish in the morning here.
Right.
And so they're preparing our breakfast.
Well, I'm going to assume that majority of our listeners don't know Indonesian, so it might just be a murmuring.
Yeah. So, what did you want? What did you intend? Look at this. Now, a full moon is when the sun is reflected completely on the moon. The moon is our emotions. The moon is our feelings. We might want it to hide, and yet it's in full view. So it's a time of sometimes hopelessness, a time where you feel like, oh my gosh, now I can see what I don't have. But yet now I can see what needs repair. So in order to be more Libra, more peace and harmonious with our one-on-ones. So, it kind of can work well if we've got this planet of communication, Mercury and Aries, saying, this is what I want, this is what I want. How can we work together for my needs, my wants, my desires with what because if it takes two people to have a relationship.
Right.
So if you're each honest and claiming what it is in that Mercury Aries, if you're each claiming, come to that fulcrum, to that middle point and say, how can we repair this to become closer and, more of that balance, because Libra is the sign of balance.
Absolutely, man. That's
right?
Incredible.
I also want you to go back to that October 2018, the last time we had the new moon in Libra. What did you set? Always a time to set intentions is at the new moon.
Right.
And we had that October 9th, 2018. We had that new moon in Libra. It's 6 months later when we get the sun is on the opposite side, shining the light. It's a 6-month kind of manifestation.
Wow.
What is here now that you might have set 6 months ago that you now need to adjust?
Yeah, that's so interesting. I mean, I know what mine is.
Well, I didn't even say this earlier when I was doing
my goodness,
this writing.
This is crazy.
It's like, there's adjustment period. It's repair time.
Yeah.
And that's, interesting. So here we go. Let's move on.
Okay.
Saturday, the 20th, we have the sun moving into Taurus. Happy solar return, you Taurus babies.
Yeah, happy birthday, Tauruses.
Yeah, that happens at 3:55 a.m. in Chicago. And certainly, the sun moving from the speedy sign, the action-packed sign of Aries, now moves into the fixed earth sign of Taurus, really allows for a more steady, slower pace month. So it's where, we get that Aries time is when the spring is starting, and we get, some blossoms of little bulbs coming up. We see green, we see new life coming in.
Right.
And now Taurus is now continuing that new life. It's a growth period. And so, the earth fixed sign wants tangible results.
Right. And it also wants to, feel secure as well, right? Taurus is the bull that wants to have 4 hooves in the ground, feeling very comfortable, very pleasant, stable in exactly where it stands.
Really interesting here. I went to a cremation about a week ago, a Balinese cremation. And they're very sacred here, and I was invited, and I had to dress traditional and proper attire. Our group has been invited to the royal cremation that's coming up on Monday, where the whole town will close. The streets will be closed off. We will have to walk to the palace and then walk from the palace to the cemetery and watch the cremation.
Right.
And they do this with a bull. It's this big handmade.
That's right.
The community, the Banjar, creates this huge
it's almost like a paper mache
statue that's covered in red fabric.
Right.
And it's a bull. And we will know, they don't know who it is, if it's a male or a female that has passed away. They don't know what part of the royal family has passed. They don't know the age, but we will see that in the bull. If the bull has a
phallic
symbol,
piece.
we will know it's a man. And usually the picture of the deceased is on the back of the parade tower, which ends up being burned, along with the cow where they have now put the body. And so it's a hours-long process. So anybody in the group,
excited.
Anybody in the group that wants to go, this is we made this an optional, but it's quite spectacular. I mean, in death, if you will, that we get to help the soul, the spirit, rise from the earth and go through their traditional ceremony. So I'm hoping that a majority of the girls want to go. It's going to be a walk.
And that's also going to, be a very interesting way of bringing in the sun ingressing into Taurus.
Right? Watching this kind of burn. So, anyway, it's a slower pace month. We have Venus moving into Aries.
I'm happy about that. I have Venus in Aries natally. So it is.
You're going to get a Venus return.
Yeah. Yep.
And this happens in Chicago on the 20th, just after the sun, right after the sun leaves Aries and goes into its next sign, Taurus. Just hours later, maybe 9 hours later, at 11:11 a.m., Venus moves out of Pisces, where she really loves being. She loves being she's exalted in Pisces, but now she's moving into Aries. So again, this has this making moves. She's joining the messenger, Mercury, into Aries. So there's more of an action-packed here. So, Venus, love, beauty, money, it's taking now direct action. So now our thoughts, Mercury, our thoughts, our words, our ideas are aligned with, because we'll get the conjunction of the two attendants.
Yeah.
The two attendants to the sun are joining up in force again on a direct path, neither one of them are in retrograde this time. So, what do you love? Move it forward. Speak about it. Remember, all balance, because now we have the sun in Taurus, which is ruled by Venus. So it's taking action right now. Yeah.
I like that.
It's a big week.
Making moves. Making moves. I like that.
Then on Monday, the 22nd, at 6:05 Chicago time,
we have the sun conjunct Uranus.
Now, everything, anything, it all that is not calm. So just as the sun in Taurus is saying, okay, here we go, we're going to take slower, more reliable steps forward, Uranus goes, shake it up. But really, I advise here to be different, to build new patterns, forge new paths. These still can be less chaotic. They can still be grounded, but you're moving in a new path that hasn't been tread before. It's an exciting day with many twists and turns. Remember, Uranus is the rebel. Sun wants to be the leader. So, you're gonna want to lead through awakening ways, through rebellious ways, through taking new ideas and moving. And of course, this is a whole week of new ideas,
right?
Moving forward on something that that it is you want to achieve. So, but Uranus says for the community, Uranus says for the betterment of all, not just yourself. Sun wants to say, for the betterment of myself, but Uranus is saying for the betterment of all. So there might be the dichotomy of, I'm going to do it myself, and Uranus says, hey, what about me?
And also create change for others as well.
Yeah.
And don't just focus solely on, selfish endeavors. Think about, humanitarian efforts as well.
It can be messy. I know you use that word. Things can get messy, but let's unpack. You should see our suitcases right now, because we arrived at our fourth location here, and immediately the other day our retreat started, and we didn't even have time to kind of unpack the dirty laundry versus the clean laundry versus our retreat clothes. We have specific retreat clothes, and opening ceremony goddess gown, and it was just you have to unpack some things in order to put things into order, and so that's what's going on right now. So allow the chaos, allow the messy. You get to see what you no longer want, what is dirty, what has holes in it, what no longer serves, what is used up. See the change, be your change. Right? The fact that this self, family, community, I can't push enough the importance of community here in Bali.
Yeah.
Each community, which is called the Banjar, have they have special dress. I know, Booty, one of our beloved drivers and friends, and is taking us around here in Bali along with Koman. He's the youth community director.
Right. And he's a great one as well.
And it's so important from a young age, to be a leader in this community, because it's all about, when you go to the cremation, I know you were climbing a mountain the day of the cremation, so I was the only non-Balinese at the cremation, and there were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. Now there'll probably be tens of thousands at the royalty, because they're coming from all over the island.
Right.
But I didn't feel different, even though I looked different. Nobody treated me different. I was there in respect and honor of a passing. You know, my dad just passing away, that I was bringing my own dad's quickness to spirit, you know, the move from this earthly plane into this other plane, which, you know, is a swift passage, you know, without fear. So, you know, can't talk about the community level here of helping other people that they have in Bali. So, you know, we're all adjusting. The Bali, our retreaters are kind of just going adjusting into helping, and they're doing a wonderful job, because that's, you know, I ran into my, you know, our chiropractor at the beach right before I left, and he's like, "Oh, Sandy, are you and Alex going to Bali?" I said, "You were actually leaving on Wednesday." And he said, "Oh, I want to go there one day." He said, my guru, and he named the guru, and I can't respond to it. And he said that once you touch down in Bali, there's really no meditation practice that you need to continue every day, because you're automatic with each step in automatic meditation.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with that. Bali is just a place where things naturally
bubble up.
Absolutely.
And you have a choice whether to try to push it down, but you can't here.
It's cleansing, and it's healing, and which kind of brings me to our next, you know, our house story. You know, we're talking about unpacking and letting go, and using, you know, this Sun Uranus change to shed the stuff we don't need and really go for what we want. And here in the Our House story, it's all about our travels yesterday to Tirta Empul. And here in Bali, Tirta Empul means holy spring, holy water. And there's this beautiful story of this god who was mad at the king because the king was not letting people, you know, have a right to their religious freedom. And so this god throws down a steel weapon, and it pierces the ground. And from that, the water, the holy spring, starts bubbling up from the ground. And so, I mean, I just think that is just a huge, like, similar imagery to this sun ingressing into Taurus, that earth, that Mercury into Aries, that like steel, strong, almost like hole punching visual.
Yeah.
And that Venus in Aries as well. So here we all traveled to this holy spring, and on the way there we were instructing everyone, you know, what are you going to be letting go? What are you shedding? What do you need to leave in the waters?
Yeah, it's a purification ceremony, really. Yeah. And
so it was. There is this kind of like traditional process that you go to with the fountains, and
you have to wear a sarong and a sash. You have to dress properly. You have to cover your shoulder. You have to have your hair tied up. It's specific in nature. And you get into this cold spring with a lot of other people. The rocks on the...
Not only people, but fish as well.
Yeah, I mean carp. Yeah, like they're koi fish. They're kois.
Yeah.
But, you know, some of the women, I mean, some of these were like 3 feet long. They were like, oh.
Oh, yeah, they were big.
But you go to this fresh spring, and there's 3 pools. And when we say pools, we mean like holes in the ground.
But they resemble pools, and from one of the tall edges of the pool, there are these very, you know, kind of ferocious fountains that come out, and within the fountain, it's said, I mean, I don't see it, but it's said that the holy leaders that were creating and building this kind of like spring and fountain
from where the god
pierced the ground into the holy
at
spring.
that exact spot.
Right, at the same exact spot. And so for them to then help cultivate, people being able to wash their faces and wash their heads, they hammered into these very flat pieces of metal all of these prayers. And each fountain has a different prayer on these metal sheets. And what they did with the metal sheets is they rolled them up, and that was the piping that they used to help, guide the water out of these small little fountains.
So the water passes each one of these words and prayers.
Absolutely.
Constantly.
And there's something about when you're approaching the fountain and you're in this high waist water.
Up to your waist.
And you're approaching it and you have your hands in prayer position and you have them on the top of your head and you're asking permission. You're asking permission for cleansing, for healing, for shedding, for finally letting go of baggage that we've had for so long or thought processes that no longer serve us. But each of the fountains is different. And so in the first pool, it's all about kind of the metaphysical. And then when you jump into the second pool, there's two fountains. In those fountains, there is our past karma as well as our future. And in the third pool is the 7 fountains of the 7 chakras. So that's more about our physical body. And
that's the healing pool.
The healing pool. So those physical healings.
There's certain ones you don't go to that are only meant for funeral.
Right.
They only use that water. And you'll see that at the cremation. They have this big clear bowl that they'll pour over the body right before they burn the body. Wow. And that's the water from the 2 fountains that we're not permitted to go because we're on the plane, we're alive.
And so another part of this, wonderful story and this wonderful journey that we took the attendees to was after the cleansing, we then dry off, we get new sarongs on, and we travel, a short little walk into another part of the temple. And this is where we perform, traditional prayers. And we have a high priest who leads us in prayer.
Private blessing.
Yeah. A private blessing. We bring our offerings. We basically, give our thanks, give our gratitude, and it's such a really interesting part of it all too, because just from knowing some locals, we're able to go here because majority there's kind of this red velvet. It's not really red velvet, but it's a barricade that people are not allowed back here. And so we were able to bring all of our retreaters back to experience this. And right after we're done with our prayers and we're all saying Om.
Right, and we have the little tray with the offerings that Made prepared, and there's flowers in there, there's
incense,
little pieces of, there's incense, there's a coin, there's different flowers, and we follow the priest as he's ringing the bell, and we have to hold it up. Then they come over with the holy water. Put your right hand over your left. Sip 3 times, and then he gives us rice to put on our 3rd chakra, and then if we want onto our throat chakra. And then we wear rice all day, and we've got flowers behind our ears.
Yes,
and it just shows, and we see that all around Bali. That when you see that on the natives here, that we know that they've done their meditation and their prayer for the morning.
Right.
So it's just like this beautiful, and they stay in prayer all day because they wear it, so to speak, right?
And so after we were done with this ceremony, the sky pretty much opened up.
Oh my God,
and
poured.
I later talked to Ibu Made about that, and she goes, that was a very good happening. That the clouds, that the sky waited for us to finish our blessing.
And seriously, we started getting a few drops as we're standing up because we have to sit down or kneel down. We started walking because we had 15 different Balinese fruits and little cake, these little rice cake things and we durian was one, jackfruit, dragon fruit,
white mango.
White mango. I've never had it before. I never heard of it
absolutely
before. It's
delicious.
in season here. Mango is not, but white mango is.
And mangosteen.
Your favorite mangosteen.
Yep. So we took that.
Dragon fruit.
It started completely pouring, so we ran over to a big underpass. And
a temple. It was like an underpass temple.
Right. And that's where we had our fruit exploration. And so we were cutting up all these different types of fruit, and there were even people thinking that we were a part of, this like big tour of the temple.
They were like, how much for a piece of fruit? We're like, oh, sorry.
They're like, we want to do the fruit tasting too. And we were like, oh, sorry, this is just for our retreaters.
All the girls also did try to put the leveler on their head, like the donut thing on their head, and then carry the big basket of fruit. And they're like,
and
whoa,
this basket must have been at least 30 pounds. I mean, 20 to 30 pounds.
Idumade is about this beautiful, beautiful, thin woman who helps us dress properly in traditional clothes, and prepares our offering. So she's carrying it no problem, moving around, walking up and down stairs. It was beautiful.
No hands. Yeah, so we had some attendees try and put that on their heads. And
I know Lauren was like, oh, I think I got it. Oh, no, don't let go.
And it was a lot of fun. So, yeah, and then we went out to a beautiful lunch in the rice paddies and came back home and relaxed.
It's something that we have to do Hey, Danielle, do you have a comment? We're doing our podcast.
We're recording our podcast right now.
Do you have a comment about Terta Empul? We just got done explaining to our peeps.
Super spiritually overwhelming in a good way. It was incredible. Very incredible.
Yeah, so that's and we do this on the first full day to purify. Let's talk quickly about the presidential election that's going on today in the entire Indonesia. Yeah. There are 19 million voters voting today, and the majority of them, a third of them are millennials.
190 million.
190 million.
Yeah.
What did I say?
You said 19.
Oh, 190 million, and a third of them are the millennials that have never voted before.
And so this is a presidential election of their previous president who's up for re-election, as well as a new one who has been the vice president. And so it's so interesting too, the way that this dichotomy is coming up here in Indonesia. A lot of people, especially here in Bali, love this president this current president that's up for re-election, and the president that's coming in and competing with this is he's much more military oriented. He kind of leads with an iron fist, and his slogan is "Make Indonesia or Make Bali Great Again."
Come on, you can't make this up.
So it's just been so interesting and so intriguing to learn a little bit more about this election that's going to be happening today.
And I asked Koman how they vote. I'm sure it wasn't electronically.
Like the ballots, right?
The ballots. And they go into a voting location, and they're given a piece of paper and a stick, and they put a hole through the paper in the area of who they want to vote for.
I think that's awesome. Yeah, and I think American ballots have done that before as well, except now all of ours are electronic.
And then they sit and they count them in each of the regions in the banyars, the communities. So anyway, that's all we got. It's time for lunch here in Bali, or breakfast in Bali, and then we have our workshop.
Yep. So we will come back to you next week, and we'll bring some of our retreaters and talk to you more about our Bali retreat. So until then, of course, write us a review. Keep in touch with us. We do have some retreats coming up that we would love for you to join. One is going to be in Lake Tahoe. We have
in September.
We have some plans.
For just a quick weekend. It's a 3-day weekend. We also will be booking our Bali retreat 2020 before we leave here.
Yes.
So we'll have the dates for that.
Yes.
And if everybody who says are coming we would already be full.
Oh yeah. So definitely,
we'll see. Yeah.
definitely get your name on that list, since I will be sending out those emails. So I bid you adieu, and we will see you. Om Swastiastu.
Bye-bye.